Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's CX Quick Tip. Of course, we're going to have a good time because Justin Robbins is with us. Justin, hello. How's it going, man?
Hey, Jim. It's so good. I mean, I saw your shirt, and how could I not be in a good mood as soon as I looked at that thing? I love it. You're all in.
Yeah, and I'm all in because I know, man, you have some of the, from a dress and a standout. You inspired me, so I have my Christmas tropical shirt on today just for you, my friend. Otherwise, I'm actually quite more conservative.
I love it. And here I'm all cozy today. It's like cool and rainy, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna be comfortable. It's right. It's comfortable the week of the holidays. Like, come on.
Oh, believe me, my toes are cold. Well, man, so okay. Today we're going to talk about, when you even the reports this morning, they're talking about the Omicron, or however you want to pronounce it, and how that's impacting so many different levels of our economy and, the workplace. I mean, it just goes on, right? So, and I think for all of us, we've had to make some required adjustments, but I think going into 2022, hopefully we're stabilizing and realizing that, hey, the chaos is just going to continue. And we can't allow that to dictate, our actions and as well as our decisions that we make. We have to plan and then be fluid and adjust. And so staffing in contact centers being the most significant investment that we have, and it's always been that way. And it doesn't matter how much automation you put in, it's still going to remain because the skill sets keep going up and things like that, right? But there's some best practices that we need to start really putting in place and planning for in 2022. And you talk about an approach. Tell us a little bit about these two different approaches.
Sure thing, Jim. Yeah, I think staffing has been one of the, if not the biggest hot topic for most of the contact center, or frankly, business leaders that I've talked to over the past few months, right? The whole great resignation thing, doing more with less, all that kind of stuff. When I've been talking to people about their strategies, how do we make sure that we've got not just the right number of people, but the right people to do the job? There have been often two approaches to how we think about the contact center. One is this generalist approach. And you might even remember, Jim, back when I was at Hershey, this was one of the big initiatives that I got to be a part of. And it was this idea of the universal agent, that if you contacted 1-800-HERSHEY, you would speak to one type of person and they could do all things for you. And, I'll be honest, that approach has some like real attractiveness to it, because from an efficiency standpoint, our friend Brad Cleveland would talk about the powerful pooling principle. You bring people together in those larger queue groups, you're innately more efficient. And of course, from a convenience standpoint, if I don't have to, navigate your call tree or whatever to try to figure out who I'm supposed to get to, really great for customers from that standpoint. So generalized is one, but then the other is this idea of specialization. And this is actually kind of where things tend to be leaning more and more. If you're a loyalty member of an airline or train or car, whatever it might be, hotels, they can use this approach. There's all sorts of examples of specialized. And, what's nice about that is you're able to be more focused. You can have more expertise on the topic you're talking about. So often it comes down to, at a very high level, this decision around, do I go generalized or do I go specialized when I look at building a contact center workforce?
Well, even when you're saying that, I start thinking about the complexity of the interactions that we have today. I mean, voice, chat, and goes on and on. Is that even being a generalist requires a whole deeper level set of skill set than it used to, 5 years ago. I mean, it's a different ball game. So are we still necessary? So are we really looking at, I should say, routing and queuing, types of methodologies and skill set and programming, or are we really looking at a people scenario?
Right. Well, that's part of the problem that we've got to solve there, because what you ultimately need to decide on there, right? There's like three big potential trade-offs that you're looking to navigate, right? Number one is your actual size of your staff. As I mentioned, if you go the route of generalist, you are able to mathematically do more with less. Right. So if you're feeling like, hey, we don't have the bodies that we need, and right now you're typically a highly specialized, that's how you build your contact center. One of the solutions for you could be moving to this generalist approach if you can't get more people, right? And trying to figure out, how do we navigate this? So number one is like the number of bodies that are actually involved to get this done. Two, then becomes the idea of domain expertise, right? So it is a people and a technology question in terms of, I can't have a massive binder. I've got to have a really good knowledge base, or I've got to augment that with really good self-service, right? There's those types of considerations. So it's the number of people. It's, how do you deliver knowledge to them? And then the third is, you're right, it really is a technology piece, because for me to deliver a high level of specialization, right, you can get really complicated, right, with that. I could say that my tier 3 customers who are using SMS, they're going to get this group. And you've got to have technology to effectively route that without making the customer feel like, the paradox of choice, right? I don't know, who I am, but it's much different. And Jim, and you've experienced this. If I call somewhere, I'll think of like the airline that I fly, right? If I call in, thank you for calling back, Mr. Robbins. We have your loyalty on file. Are you calling about this? There's a high degree of technology that is required to deliver that specialized experience.
Well, and I mean, as you're talking, I start thinking about the multitudes of different scenarios that exist. So, I also start thinking about the timing piece. So do I ever shift, like during peak periods, I do something different? So when is, if I start thinking about the timing associated with this, when is a good time to actually either implement or maybe even adjust my approach?
Yeah. So to me, I often think of this as like, what is the great competitive differentiator for your business? And for some of you, the competitive differentiator is this idea to deliver a generalized experience to your customer. If I think about where I was back in the mid 2000s, right, working for a large hospitality business, one of the frustration points we heard from our customers, and that's the key thing, your customers are probably already telling you whether they want a specialized or a generalized experience. Our customers were saying it was too complicated for them to book a vacation. They're having to talk all these different people, navigate all of these different things, right? The warning lights were just going off in the background for us that people don't want, like, they want a generalized specialist, if this makes any sense, right? They want someone who can do all of these things for them in one interaction. But for some of you, maybe you're able to identify, we've actually got some really core, unique customer groups that they need someone specialized. Maybe you're in financial services, that there's, certain degrees of lending experience that might be required, or maybe you're in education and there's a certain background, or I think about the FDA, right, was a customer of mine at one point, right? You had people who need to have certain doctorates to be able to handle types of interactions. So chances are, Jim, your customers are telling you which way you should be leaning. The question is, are you listening? Are you kind of looking for the indicators of saying, hey, here's what they really expect out of their experience with your agents?
Well, and as you say that, I mean, there's a whole lot of customer education that may be associated with it, and the customer may not be aware that either regulations are in place that therefore I can't do that, right? Or there's this whole skill set, issue associated with it. And I think, for us, we have to kind of be taking into consideration, three different things that we maybe need to serve, right? And that is, of course, the customer, but then in our technology and its current capabilities, and also starting to think about a future state, but then also the people who are actually providing the service themselves, our agents.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, at the end of the day, with all of it, it's really about being able to clearly explain the why. You mentioned about customer education. So, if you're going around this approach where it is highly specialized and they reach, Justin on the front line, and really they need to talk to Jim, have we equipped Justin to explain to the customer why Jim is the best next step for them, right, in their interaction with this business? In the same way of, if Justin's going to be on the front line, he feels frustrated because I just want to help the customer. I don't want to have to send them to Jim. Helping them understand, here's the why, here's the reasoning behind. It's always so important.
Well, and then don't dump me into there on a cold transfer and having me to explain myself all over again, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so a lot of us are looking and saying, there's been a whole lot of shifts that have occurred. Some, like I had mentioned, required, some maybe not. If I start thinking about trends, where are organizations, actually making moves and being able to put some strategies in place? Where do you see that happening?
Yeah, so the broader trend is moving towards specialization, right? We can see it everywhere, and what's kind of become the interesting wrinkle in all of this, Jim, is we keep hearing all of these people talk about customer experience, and the reality of customer experience as a generalized idea is that it has become just a melding pot of all of these specialized functions, right? And I'm going to speak in the contact center as a specialized function, marketing as a specialized function, sales as a specialized function, all trying to work together to deliver a great customer experience. So what is the real challenge here? Where are businesses moving? I would say it's understanding two things. One, within the area that you lead. So let's say for the contact center, for this, understanding like what is the specialized value that the contact center brings to the business, right? That it brings to the customers that it serves, and then how it fits into this broader idea of customer experience, right? That to me, I think, is where there's a lot of confusion, where there's a lot of challenges, and you and I could probably spend many sets of 10 minutes talking about. But that's the real key thing that I would want to leave people to focus with today is, understand that what you're leading is a very specialized function of the business. And that for a lot of us, it's playing into this much bigger picture. And our key thing to understand is like, what are all of those specialized components and how do they all fit together, right, to deliver this big idea of CX?
Well, I would dare to say that, based on just what we covered here and all the different nuances, and you start getting into a whole set of different issues in regards to technology's capabilities, and that it's quite, it's a wintry blizzard. And you absolutely need somebody to help you out of the storm. So Justin Robbins, how do the CX Quick Tip listeners get in touch with you?
Yeah, easy. Email me, justin@metricsherpa.com. You can also get me on Twitter, Facebook, just look for Justin Robbins, and always happy to help.
And he's also a frequent contributor on our CX Quick Tips. Justin Robbins, thank you for sharing your knowledge and wisdom, and we wish you the very best.
Thanks, Jim. Happy holidays.